Welcome to the Smart Legacy Podcast, your resource for protecting assets and securing your future. Hosted by Stockton and Kandt, join us as we cover essential estate planning and elder law topics, such as wills, trusts, and Medicaid planning. Stockton and Kandt, your trusted attorney advisors in safeguarding what matters most. Welcome to another episode of the Smart Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Stockton, managing attorney of the law firm of Stockton Kandt, with offices located in Overland Park and Gardner, Kansas. Today, we're going to cover the topic of the estate plan that works in real life, not just on paper, why every family needs a roadmap, and what to do next. And I'll tell you up front, this is an episode I care about, because if you're listening to this, I'm going to assume something about you care about your family. You care about doing things the right way. You want to protect what you've built. And you want the people you love to be okay, no matter what life brings. But here's what I've learned after years of doing this work. Most families don't struggle because they don't love each other. They struggle when a hard moment arrives. They don't have clarity. And guys, clarity changes everything. Clarity changes how decisions get made. It changes how confident your spouse feels. It changes how your kids show up. It changes whether your family experiences peace or confusion or even chaos. And that's why our firm created something called the Legacy Guide. This isn't a brochure. It's not a sales pitch. It's a roadmap written for real people with real lives. It's designed to help families understand what matters most and what to do next. And just so you know, I've made it easy for you to get a copy. There's a link in the show notes where you can download the Legacy Guide and keep it as a reference. All right, let's talk about why this guide matters and what's inside. And let me start with something simple and honest. Most people don't avoid estate planning because they don't care. They avoid it because they don't know where to begin, or they think they have time. I can tell you, we don't always get second chances. People are afraid that estate planning is going to be too complicated or expensive or overwhelming. And the truth is, estate planning can feel that way, but it doesn't have to. The problem I see most often is not that families have no plan. The problem is they have a plan that's incomplete or outdated or disconnected from real life. A lot of people think estate planning is a stack of documents, a will, a trust, a power of attorney. And those documents matter. They matter for sure. But the Legacy Guide is built around a different philosophy. Estate planning is about more than just the documents. True planning protects your independence. It prepares for life's changes. It helps minimize taxes. And it ensures your loved ones are cared for when it matters most. That's the standard. That's what families actually need, and that's what this guide is designed to help you understand. Because most people don't need more legal jargon. They need clarity. They need a roadmap. They need to know what matters and in what order. Most families think estate planning is only about what happens after death. Who gets what, how probate works, how to avoid probate. But in the real world, the biggest problems often show up before death. A health crisis, a stroke, a decline in memory, a spouse who can't manage the finances anymore. And suddenly the questions change. The question isn't who inherits what. The question becomes, who's in charge right now? How do we make decisions? How do we protect everything we've built? How do we pay for the care we need when we need it? That's why the Legacy Guide is designed around the idea that no two families are the same. There's no cookie-cutter recipe for good planning. Good planning reflects your values as much as your valuables. And the reason we created this guide is very simple. When people feel overwhelmed, they don't take action. But when people feel clear, they move forward. One of the reasons people put off estate planning is they don't understand the process. They don't know what happens first. They don't know what happens next. They don't know what information they need. So we've built a clear roadmap. Step one is a consultation. We identify goals. We identify risks. we determine the right plan structure. Step 2 is an asset review meeting. We look at account statements, ownership, beneficiaries. We identify what's missing and what needs to be aligned. Step 3 is plan development. We walk through the options. We confirm who will serve in key roles. We make sure the plan matches the family. Step 4 is a comprehensive review. We ensure the plan is coordinated, not just legally, but practically and financially. Step 5 then is signing and delivery. Documents are signed, witnessed, notarized. Funding steps begin. And step 6 is lifetime stewardship. That's where most law firms stop. We don't. Because the goal is not just getting documents signed. The goal is making sure the plan works when real life happens. That means ongoing review, education, alignment over time. And if you'd like to read the roadmap in full at your own pace, you can download the Legacy Guide using the link in the show notes. Now, let me give you the simplest framework we use for building stable planning. Picture a four-legged stool. If all four legs are strong, the stool stands. It supports weight. But you remove one leg and it wobbles. Remove two, it collapses. A strong estate plan is the same way. The four legs are 1. Foundational legal documents. 2. Long-term care and asset protection planning. Leg 3, tax planning. And leg 4 is ongoing alignment through plan reviews, making sure your assets are titled properly and beneficiaries are set up correctly. That's leg 4. Most people only build one leg. They sign documents and assume the rest will take care of itself. It won't. So let's walk through these legs one at a time. Leg 1, as I said before, is foundational legal documents. For many families, the starting point is a will. Wills can work, but wills work through probate. Probate is the court-supervised process. It can be slow. It can be expensive. It's public. For many families, a trust is a better option. A properly designed trust avoids probate, preserves privacy, and it provides flexibility. And here's the key difference. A trust works while you're still alive. Now, I want to explain a trust in a way that sticks. So think of a trust as being like a safe. The trust is the safe. The trustees are the people that have the keys. The successor trustees have the backup keys. And funding the trust simply means putting the assets into the safe, titling the assets into the name of the trust, or making the trust the beneficiary. And here's the line I want you to remember. If the safe is empty, the trust can't do its job. So a trust plan isn't truly finished when the documents are signed. It's finished when the trust is funded and the assets are aligned. Now, along with the trust, you'll also need what I call the lifetime, protection documents. They include the durable power of attorney for finances and property, the healthcare power of attorney, the HIPAA authorization or HIPAA release, the living will. Because one of the biggest breakdowns in planning happens when someone is alive but can't manage their life anymore. And in those moments, those documents aren't just paperwork. They're protection, they're dignity, they're relief. And by the way, if you want a copy of the Legacy Guide so you can walk through this at your own pace, you'll find it in the link in the show notes. Now, on to leg 2. Leg 2 is long-term care and asset protection planning. More broadly, it's asset protection planning. But for most of us, the biggest financial risk to our accumulated wealth is the cost of long-term care, and most people don't have a plan. So leg 2 is making sure that we have a plan for asset protection and specifically long-term care. For most families, the greatest financial risk, as I said, doesn't come at death. It comes before it. It comes when a fall, a diagnosis, or a memory loss turns into assisted living, memory care, or nursing home. The need for care is not rare, and the cost can be staggering. Nursing home costs regularly exceed $100,000 per year. Without planning, even families who saved diligently can see assets depleted in just a few short years. Now, I want to pause here for a moment. This is not about fear. This is about options. When families plan early, they keep options. When they wait, they lose options. And this is where people get confused. Medicare is not long-term care coverage. Medicare is designed primarily for short-term rehabilitation after hospitalization. Medicaid can help cover long-term care costs, but eligibility rules are strict and only up for a maximum of 100 days. So in our firm, we plan for flexibility. We build what we call the switch into a plan, the ability to convert planning tools if long-term care becomes necessary. And here's the line that says it best. The best time to plan is before you need care, not when you're seated at the nursing home admissions desk. Leg 3 is tax planning. Most people think taxes are just filing, gathering documents, submitting returns. That's certainly important, but it's not the same thing as planning. Tax planning is forward-looking. It's about the years ahead. Retirement has tax traps most people don't anticipate. Required minimum distributions, Medicare premium surcharges, the survivor trap, Social Security taxation thresholds. Good planning looks forward and it coordinates those risks. And this is why we say estate planning is a team sport, because the biggest outcomes happen when the attorney, CPA, and financial advisor are all aligned. Now on to leg 4. Leg 4 is making sure that our assets stay in alignment with the plan, because even the best plan fails if it isn't maintained, if assets aren't titled correctly, if beneficiaries are outdated, if the plan doesn't match the family anymore. That's why we provide complimentary annual review meetings. We confirm changes. We confirm the documents, the choices that you made, that they're still the one you want. We keep things aligned. We make adjustments over time, because small adjustments made consistently often lead to the biggest results. The 4 legs are the structure, but the seat is the purpose. It represents stewardship, family connection, and peace of mind. Transparency today brings peace tomorrow. That's why we do family meetings. That's why we educate families, because the goal isn't just getting the documents done. It's readiness. It's making sure the plan works when we need it. All right, so that's kind of the stool as we set up, how the stool works. I want you to adopt this, mindset that it's not just about the documents. All these other things matter, right? So look at it as having these 4 legs of the stool. The foundational documents being leg 1, making sure we have a plan for long-term care and asset protection. That's leg 2. Making sure we look at our taxes through both the microscope lens and the telescope lens. That's leg 3. Leg 4 being making sure everything is aligned, what we call wealth alignment, that assets are titled properly, beneficiaries are set up correctly. And again, the seat of the stool is just about that stewardship. Making sure we review our plan periodically. And when we do those reviews, we look at each of the 4 legs of the stool. We review the foundational documents. Here's who you named to make financial decisions. Here's who you named to make healthcare decisions. Here's who you've named as your beneficiaries. It's that type of thing. We then move on to leg 2. Each year, annual review. We've reviewed the documents. Then we go to the long-term care piece and asset protection. Are you part of any lawsuits? Anything changed in your health? Anything we need to be aware of? We look at the plan that we have in place for long-term care. If there have been changes in the law, changes in assets, anything that would necessitate us to make some adjustments to the plan. Most years, the documents are great. We don't have anything we need to do for long-term care. Our plan still works. Then we go to leg 3 and we look at taxes. And we spend a lot of time in those annual reviews on taxes. I tell people, think of taxes, and you've probably heard me say this before, think of taxes 2 ways. Most people only look at it one way. They're looking at their taxes through the microscope, right? They're looking at, have I taken all my deductions? Am I getting all my credits? Am I doing standard deduction? Am I going to itemize? That's important. We need to look at our taxes through that microscope view every single year. But in addition to looking at our taxes through the microscope, I want to make sure we're looking at it through the telescope, that we're looking at it long term. We're getting ahead of those traps I mentioned earlier. RMDs, when one spouse dies and we go from a joint filer to a single filer, how income affects Social Security, how it affects Medicare, how it affects certain deductions that phase out with income. And we can look ahead to see what's going to happen in the future if we don't get ahead of the planning. We look at how much wiggle room do we have in our current tax brackets. All those things are what I call telescope planning, considerations, long-term planning. How do we minimize the impact of taxes over the long term, over your lifetime and beyond? One of my favorite quotes, I bring it up frequently, it was from Judge Learned Hand. And he said there's two systems of taxation in America, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. And what he meant by that was that those people who plan, the people that, do the telescope type planning, will pay far less in taxes than those who don't. So we want to make sure that our clients are looking at the taxes through both lenses. And we do that each and every single year, right? Then we move on to leg 4, and we're just making sure the assets are titled properly, beneficiaries are set up correctly, that this plan is going to work when we need it. So I would encourage you, give this stuff thought. Put this all together. And this legacy guide that we've put together, this is here to help you. So again, look at the show notes, click the link, enter your name and email address, and we'll make sure you get a copy of this. And this is going to walk you through what good planning looks like, how to think about this, help you make the decisions, help you communicate things to your family. And obviously, if you're clients of ours, we're going to help you with that too, with the annual reviews, the family meeting. And in that family meeting, right, it's a meeting we offer. We don't charge the annual reviews, family meetings. In that family meeting, we want to bring the kids or the decision makers together. We want them to understand their mom or dad or whoever's, the plan makers. They want the kids to understand mom and dad have a plan, where they're going to find the plan, what their role is when the time comes. We want clarity. We want to make this easy. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done your plan, let's get it done. We don't always get second chances on this. Get the planning done, and this resource guide will help you figure it out. If you already have your plan in place, pull it out, review it periodically, make sure everything's in alignment. All right, so good estate planning matters. Guys, when we do good estate planning, by the way, it doesn't mean there's nothing to do at death or nothing to do at incapacity. It just makes it easier. We still have to file the final tax return. We got to get things divided up. But good planning makes it easier. And the number one thing I hear as to why people plan is, I don't want to be a burden. And guys, I'll tell you, if you don't get the planning done, you've blown it. It's going to be somebody else's burden to figure out because you didn't do it. So get the plan done, keep it simple, but make sure you're being comprehensive. All right. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, I would encourage you to subscribe and share the Smart Legacy podcast with someone you care about. Get this resource guide. You will find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. You can also visit our website at stocktonlaw.com, and you'll find links to all the episodes of the podcast, including today's, along with a plethora of other useful information. So thank you again for listening. This is Glenn Stockton, and I hope you'll tune in to future episodes of the Smart Legacy podcast.
The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. Laws vary by state, and this podcast focuses on estate planning and elder law in Kansas and Missouri. If you are located in Kansas or Missouri and require legal advice, please contact our office. Otherwise, consult a qualified attorney licensed in your jurisdiction.